Zappa col cross, palla dentro Pavoletti! Pavoletti! Incredibile! Pavoletti al 94esimo minuto, il Cagliari sblocca al 94esimo minuto con Leonardo Pavoletti, incredibile al San Nicola, incredibile.
Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. This is episode 83. We're your hosts Jake
and Matt,
and we're here to take you through the Serie B promotional playoffs.
Yes, of course, there's a bunch of other news that we want to go through before we get into all the details and the happenings of Serie B, the playoffs, the playouts, all the necessary information. A lot has happened this week. There was the Champions League final. There was the World Cup Under-20 finals as well that we need to talk about. So we'll just go through a quick rundown and then we'll get to Serie B and give you guys what you want to hear.
The goal we featured in our intro was Pavoletti's last-second winner to gain promotion for Cagliari. Zappa absolutely destroyed his man out on the wing, whipped in a beautiful cross, and Pavoletti just volleyed it home. Quite an easy task for him. Zappa did all the dirty work.
Yeah, I mean, 95th minute, second leg. Bari were cruising to the Serie A at that point, naturally, because they had finished third. But wow, Cagliari just kept on going in the last minute, until the last minute, in that fierce San Nicola Stadium with that atmosphere, with Bari fans going absolutely mental.
52,000 of them.
52,000 of them, and absolutely silenced because of Pavoletti. It'll be great to see him back in Serie A next year, man.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to check out our snippets, guys, you can follow us at Serie A Spotlight on Instagram or TikTok. And you can also check out our website for new merch. I don't know if you've noticed the artwork of the episodes. I've been drawing these little fucking silly caricatures, and you can buy them as stickers now. They're like €1, 30 cents.
Yeah, it's like €1.39. We're also doing like bucket hats and t-shirts and caps, so on and so forth. They're pretty sick. I mean, you can feel free. We're gonna buy some ourselves because we actually think they're pretty cool. Like that bucket hat with
Kandreva.
With Kandreva. Cool, we're a bit limited with what colors we can do. That would be sick in a maroon, for example, like those Salernitana colors. But we're only starting. This is the start of something new. It's a new stream for us, and something we're passionate about, something we're creating. Well, like Jake is creating. If you guys want to support, feel free.
We've also got Patreon. I don't want to shove everything down your throats, but that's $3.99 a month if you'd like to support our content, guys.
Yes, we have had another FIFA showdown. That time we did drafts. We were doing FIFA drafts on Ultimate Team, and we were just taking every single Serie A or Italian player that we came across. We were taking the likes of fucking Simone Verdi would have the option of like Cruyff or something. Fucking bring Verdi
for the culture, baby.
For the culture.
Okay, so I think the first thing we need to address, bro, before getting into the playoffs is the Champions League final.
Absolutely. I think it's as we said it would be, in the sense that of course City are favourites, but Inter are a tough team to penetrate. They're a tough team to. It's tough to adapt when you're playing against Inter. It's like you never know what's gonna come. They're such an organized team and they're so versatile when it comes to the way that they move the ball forward. So City had a tough time adapting, but they did have that one moment. That's the difference, no? Between City and Inter. Inter would have had 4 better chances than City had, but City have that quality. They have someone like Rodri where the ball's outside the area, just slots it in. One lapse in concentration for Inter and it cost them.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned, I think, in the last episode, that was going to be the runners in behind who would do damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Not Haaland, because Inter have centre-backs who can marshal Haaland. You look at Serie I mean, before the game, an Inter fan was asked what it would take to stop Haaland, and he replied, I don't know, maybe a rifle? Rifle, maybe? Turns out, by rifle, he meant 35-year-old Francesco Alcerbi, then he would have been spot on, because he did a great job.
He did a fantastic job. I think he was man of the match, in my opinion, Alcerbi, for Inter at least.
Yeah, the De Bruyne injury, of course, gave Inter fans hope.
Well, it can give Inter hope, but it's not always something so beneficial, because you would practice and you would practice and you would practice to deal with the source that is Kevin De Bruyne. You take out Kevin De Bruyne and you bring on I don't know, who did they bring? They bring on Phil Foden.
Yeah.
And like suddenly, shit, okay, now it's Phil Foden.
Yeah.
We haven't practiced
Exactly,
to deal with Phil Foden. There was a famous story about some manager that was going to the FA Cup final, and they were preparing for Gascoigne to play against Gascoigne. It was against Spurs. Gascoigne went off injured after 20 minutes. And after that, they got mauled because this new guy came in. They knew nothing about him and he just destroyed them. Obviously, there's more awareness in football nowadays than back then in the 90s or whatever that was. But it would have made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they had a game plan on
KDB.
diffusing KDB. Yes, but yeah, it was obviously cut short because of the injury. But yes, I was impressed by Inter, to be honest. DiMarco played an incredible game. DiMarco this season has really switched gear compared to last year with Inter. I thought they were very unlucky. I thought Lukaku getting in the way again, man. He was so unlucky. And I think Simone Inzaghi, look, people are criticizing because it's easy to criticize him in hindsight for not starting Lukaku. But bringing him on, man, changed momentum, and they did have chances to equalize, and they were very unlucky not to, man. That amazing save by Ederson at the end as well.
I still think that a cooler head towards the end of the 90 minutes would have been the way to go by bringing on Dzeko, which is something I had said in the last episode as well. But in that case, I think it's one of those things that you end up looking so deeply into that no matter what the conclusion is, it's never going to be the right one.
Yeah.
You're always going to be missing out on something. It's a judgment call, and I think on all the big stages Inter have been in this season, they always started Dzeko and brought on Lukaku. That was their system. That's what they had been doing. That's what worked.
I think it's as simple as if you need to score, you're not going to stretch the lines with Dzeko. If you need to score against a team that dominates possession, you need to be able to stretch the game as much as possible. Dzeko doesn't give you that. You can't play Dzeko in behind. Lukaku, on the other hand, if he's starting from the halfway line and you play him in behind, prime Lukaku at least, would absolutely demolish his man. And that gives them the opportunity to have fresh legs and to actually strengthen in the second half, because City are most definitely strengthening. They've got 100 million men on the bench, right? 100 million euro men. So you don't actually have 100
million
troops. 100 million substitutes.
They don't even have a million fans, I think. So did you see their celebrations, man? Bro, I mean, you look at Milan winning the league. Okay, forget the Italians, because obviously a lot, not
levels,
not because they're more passionate, which I believe that they are, but not because they're more passionate, but even the chants, the language, the demeanor and everything just does make it more vibrant than chanting a few silly songs to each other in English. But honestly, you look at Liverpool when they won, you look at United when they won, you look at Chelsea when they won, then you look at City, and it's like, okay, this is a cute little get-together. You just won the fucking treble, dogs. Like,
yeah. It's true. I think the person who celebrated the most was most definitely Jack Grealish.
And he's in Malta now, about to play against...
He's not going to be playing. So, bro, let's move away from the Champions League final. I applaud Inter. I applaud each and every one of those Italian teams that made it to a final but failed to bring something home. Next season will be better. Come on, guys.
There's steps to success.
Yes. So, Serie A update. Hellas Verona stay up. Spezia go down after 3 consecutive years in Serie A. What did you make of this game, bro? This was a playoff relegation battle. Play-out, I believe they call it.
Yeah, play-out.
Yeah. And
the first one of this kind in Serie A, after it was introduced at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and Verona absolutely looked like another level compared to Spezia. And Gonge looked incredible as well.
I mean, it's as simple as Verona got going and Spezia didn't. It's like Spezia really felt they played the occasion, not the game. It almost seemed like they weren't up to the task, and Verona were too quick for them. They were too wide for them. The way that they were playing on the flanks was very dangerous, and Spezia just couldn't contain them. Spezia don't have half the weapons. In fact, they have one weapon up front, and we all know his name.
And they've had many injuries as well, like the key players as well, Spezia. I mean, granted, both teams had missing players, but I think Spezia don't afford to have missing players because their squad's quite thin.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hilarious that you say that, because they've been in Serie A for 3 years now. 2 of those years they had a transfer ban. It was the first time they could have fucking splashed some cash, and they got relegated. So that's just the way football goes sometimes. But I do think Verona were a level above Spezia in this game. Then you look at during the league, I think that Spezia were a bit more street smart than Verona, and Verona were very, very unlucky at times. But I think you put these teams head to head, and Verona get it done.
A terrible season for Verona, one decent month, and they survive.
Exactly.
That's it. One massive moment in the game was when Verona were leading 3-1. I believe it was Shomorodov managed to get the ball over the goalkeeper and it was going in, and Faroni just hands the ball off the line, giving Spezia a penalty and getting a red card. Inzola stepped up to take the penalty, and he just passed it.
Terrible penalty.
It was terrible. He passed it to Montepò. Montepò was a hero, happy he gets to stay in Serie A. He's expressed
and he had
his insecurity with that.
Aside from the penalty save, Montepò had a very, very good game.
Great game.
Man, Drangowski needs to stay in Serie A.
So many of these guys, even Simone Bastoni,
Zola.
I think certain players could benefit from some time in Serie B.
Jassy, one of them.
Jassy, Agudelo as well needs a bit of time.
Maybe.
Nicolau, I think, could stay as well, but we'll see anyway.
Yeah.
There are a few good players over here who can stay in Serie A. Ethan Ampadu, bro. Ethan Ampadu has been relegated for the past 3 seasons in a row.
I know he got relegated with Venezia last year and this year with Spezia.
And before that with Sheffield United.
Oh, okay.
The guy just... If your club signs Ethan Ampadu, guys, you better be worried.
Exactly. How funny. He'll probably... I don't know if he'll stay in Italy next season.
I enjoyed him. I think he's a good player.
I really... He had a game from hell. He had the weirdest football game I've ever witnessed in my life. So, first they concede and the ball bounces in off of him. Then he scores an absolute worldy. Well, there was a deflection, but worldy. It reminded me of Luis Alberto's goal against Inter. Gorgeous, significant deflection though. And then after they concede another, and it bounces in off Ampadu as well. It's like, was he the hero? Was he the villain? I can't quite put my finger on it, man. But he was everything for Spezia in that game. He was absolutely everything, and he was everywhere.
He was most definitely everything, but above all, he was Welsh. Now, on the topic of this week's losers, we've got the Esposito brothers. Now, for those of you who are confused, there are 3 of them. There are 3 Espositos littered amongst Serie A.
Very talented family.
Yes, very. One of them is Sebastiano Esposito, who lost the playoff final with Bari against Cagliari. Then there's Salvatore Esposito, who lost the playoff final with Spezia. And then there's Francesco Esposito, who lost the Under-20 World Cup final against Uruguay.
Man.
Yeah, so I don't want to be at the next family gathering.
They're still better off than us. I guess they still play, or they all play them. Hey, that's the way they should look at it. No, I just said steps to success. Look at the Esposito brothers, dog. All made it to finals. Yeah. Well, one of them was a playout final.
But he's young and playing regularly in Serie A, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yes, on that note, Cagliari, of course, are back in Serie A after 1 season out. Now, there's a very romantic story over here as a young Claudio Ranieri in 1988 joined Cagliari in Serie C and led them to 2 successive promotions to Serie A. In December, a 71-year-old Ranieri came in with the task of bringing struggling Cagliari back to Serie A. And he took over when they were in 14th place. And he did it.
An absolute just the thinker, man. The hero. The guy that makes the impossible possible. You can talk all day about his failures, but his successes are just so overwhelming, man. Look at what he did with Leicester. Look at what he did with Cagliari. Look at what he did in the past in Serie A as well. That's a very, very, very... He just really makes a team gel as a family, creates this bond. I do believe that he's a bit of a Ted Lasso with more of a tactical approach, a highly tactical approach. I think he's a very lovable figure.
Yes,
you saw his Leicester squad.
We are in Champions League, man.
We are in Champions League, man. But diddly ding diddly dong.
Diddly ding diddly dong.
That was amazing, man. And obviously as well, there was also Frosinone, who won Serie B last year, led by Thiago Motta. And Genoa in second, managed by Alberto Gilardino. So you have 2 World Cup winners over there. And also Genoa and Cagliari just got relegated last season. For them to bounce back in the manner that they did was fantastic. And you look at Venezia made the playoffs as well after they were fighting what would have been a very devastating relegation for them, because they went up to A, then they went down to B, and then they were going to go down to C, but instead they almost made it all the way back up to A. And the main man over there was obviously Poyampalo. Hopefully we'll still see in Serie A
scoring
next year.
4 goals in a game and then going and drinking a beer with the fans. And I swear that's actually a thing.
Yeah. He's the coolest, dog. He is the coolest.
On the topic of play-out Serie B, Serie C, there was also a play-out game between Cosenza and Brescia in Serie B, because they finished with 40 points. By the way, 40 points to be battling relegation.
My God, huh?
It's a competitive league.
My God.
Yes, Cosenza won over 2 legs, which means that Brescia went down to Serie C, which means that Spal, Benevento and Brescia, who have all been in Serie A recently, are all in Serie C right now.
That's absolutely fucking crazy, though.
But what went down in this Cosenza-Brescia game was crazy. So the first game was a 1-0 victory to Cosenza, thanks to a late goal by baby bomber Marco Nasti. But in the second leg, Brescia were leading 1-0, and then Cosenza scored to make it 1-1, and chaos ensued. And this is according to the referee's report.
It's so dumb.
Yes. Immediately after Cosenza's equalizer, which condemned Brescia to Serie C, the match was suspended due to a launch of at least 10 smoke bombs on the field, and the pitch invasion of some Brescia supporters, who forced match officials and players to return to the changing rooms. After about 20 to 25 minutes, the referee returned to the field, and having learned from the public order manager that the conditions were not safe to resume, he decided to definitively suspend the match on the result of 1-1, and therefore a 3-0 walkover was the result, and Brescia are now in Serie C. Shambolic attitude by the fans, quite disgusting.
I mean, absolutely disgusting, because like we said a 1,000 times in the past 2 episodes, there is absolutely no space for harassing any footballer or any other person in that sense, but throwing shit at footballers, trying to hurt footballers, and there are your own guys on the pitch, and you don't care if you hit them, you don't care if you hit the others. It's a fucking final one more goal by Brescia, and they could have fucking done it. Like it was just a strange reaction from the fans, a very dangerous reaction from the fans, and it's a shame that the team had to suffer a 3-0 walkover because of those absolute lunatics, man. Lunatics.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a real shame. Silvio Berlusconi is dead. Aged 86 years old, the football legend, to be honest with you. He's hyper successful in his field, a serial winner in every single thing he's done. Super controversial figure, a funny figure, to be honest with you. Always entertained me. He divisive, definitely.
I think if you call him a footballing legend or a legend in the world of football, it discredits him as a human being and as a person.
Yeah.
Not to say that obviously, like you said, he wasn't a controversial figure, a very decisive figure.
Divisive.
A very divisive figure. But just so full of life for the entirety of whatever he did. He always had such a personality everywhere he went, from his meetings with Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, and all of these situations. I don't know if you know, but he told Obama he doesn't like his tan. Yeah. he told him, but Michelle looks like quite a lay. He's just such
unhinged.
Absolutely unhinged. And with that being said, just a legend for Milan. The success that he had with AC Milan was unbelievable. Sad to see him go, sad to see anyone go, but Silvio Berlusconi is so full of life until the last minute. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Condolences.
And it's a shame, because the Monza project was going so well with him at the helm. And now it's Evangelos Marinakis who has taken over. He's acquired Monza. He is the owner of Olympiacos and Nottingham Forest as well.
Oh, there you go. So good budgets. Olympiacos some superstars and Nottingham Forest buying anyone but a player with.
He should be able to, but apparently once
Premier
again
League
another
experience.
controversial figure here in
Yeah.
Marinakis as an owner. But we'll see what happens with Monza.
Does Galliani stay?
Galliani might stay. It's up to Marinakis. No?
I mean, as long as
maybe he'll sack him
Marinakis
and
is-
write a one-line tweet about it. No, then-
Maybe he'll just cough up the cash and he'll leave the project in Galliani's hands.
Yeah. Just one note here. Roma have signed Ndika for 4 million a season. He was hot property. I think Milan wanted him as well. They got him for free. He's on 4 million a season though. I mean, Roma have been good at picking up these free signings.
Yeah, I mean, and they've got that pull factor. I know they won't be having Champions League next year, but they do have a certain Mr. Mourinho at the end. They've got players like Dybala and Pellegrini at the team. And yeah, just their pull factor at the moment is stronger than it's been in the past 10 years, I would say.
Yeah, with the Mourinho project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of transfer news, there's a lot of speculation. We can't really cover everything. It would be impossible. It would be every episode would become outdated immediately. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
remember that
yeah.
one episode where we tried
Oh,
to do a
fun,
transfer update, and the second we finished, something crazy happened. Who had joined?
Dybala had joined Roma. Dog.
Yeah.
We had just finished our entire transfer segment, didn't mention anything about Dybala to Roma. We actually said Dybala's being linked to Inter because he fucking was, like. And then we finished recording, we're like, great, okay. Dybala's just signed for Roma. And I remember just slamming the laptop shut, like, and we just
Yeah.
went and had a drink, like.
Fuck it. So we can move on to the playoffs.
Yes, so before we get into what teams made the playoff, what went down in the playoffs, I do want to explain the playoffs a little bit because naturally we all know them from competitions like in the championship where it becomes quite a spectacle worldwide, but they actually do take place in Serie B as well to get promoted to Serie A. Now, like I said, Frosinone finished first, Genoa finished second, therefore they automatically got promoted to Serie A. And then, therefore, 3rd to 8th had to take part in this playoffs. Now, 3rd and 4th automatically go to the semi-finals of the competition, whereas the ones that finished anywhere below that need to play a quarter-final against each other. Now, the quarter-final is played through one leg, so it's essentially like a final, whoever wins that progresses, and then the semi-finals and the finals are played over 2 legs. Now, what happens over these 2 legs is that if the teams finish at a stalemate on aggregate, it doesn't go to extra time, it doesn't go to penalties, but the team that finished above the other team automatically progresses to the next round.
Yeah, I love how they just make up the rules, right?
It's like they
each
can't-
stage has a different rule.
It's like, are you prioritizing the playoff or the league right now? There's this really like gray area with it. To me, they should just make it that competition and just stick to that competition. Who wins, wins.
But it is at the same time nice that they take the domestic season into consideration. You know what I mean? Like if Bari finished 3rd and they're losing or their draw to Venezia, who are in 8th, for example, in the playoff final, it's only fair that Bari gets some form of advantage. No, if they finished above them in the league. Third.
I guess so. It's obviously not just negatives that go with it. There are a few positives and it does make sense to a certain degree. But for the sake of the competition, I think it would be A, far more entertaining, and B, there's a bit more order in my opinion, because it's like now it's this competition and it's this competition only. Because it's like, what are we doing this for? Why don't we just promote Bari?
Yeah.
In that fucking case, if it matters who finished above who, like Bari were 5 points clear of 4th place Parma and Cagliari just below them. But anyway, like I said, Bari and Cagliari automatically went to the semi-finals of the competition. Südtirol had to play against Regina over 1 leg, in which Südtirol won through a last-minute goal as well.
Miraculous stuff by Südtirol, huh?
Absolutely. They climbed, they had just gotten promoted to Serie B from Serie C. So they were going to be that motherfucking team that went up from Serie C to Serie A in the space of 2 seasons. But unfortunately, they did lose out to Bari in the semi-finals. And then the other quarter-final was played between Cagliari and Venezia. Venezia, like I said earlier, a team that were really, really fighting an embarrassing relegation, and they really managed to turn things around, only to lose against Cagliari, unfortunately for them, in the quarter-finals.
So let's start with the quarterfinals, bro, before we move on.
Yes.
We'll start with Südtirol Regina. What did you make of this game, bro?
So I quite think that not only were Regina better than Südtirol for the entire season, I think they were better than them in this game. in particular. But Sütterol just kept on going to the end. They didn't have many chances, but the chance they had towards the end, they capitalized.
Yeah, and their chances just kept getting better and better, man, as the game progressed. Of course, Regina are managed by Pippo Inzaghi.
They were managed by Pippo Inzaghi because he's off to Turkey now.
Oh, has
Regina.
he? Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's off.
Who's he joining in Turkey? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Come to Besiktas. Yes, Kaziragi's goal was a lovely moment, of course. There was just 1 minute remaining. And he capitalized on a deflection from Loichano and beat Contini to secure the decisive goal for Sütterol with a very cool finish. The Druzo Stadium erupted in celebration, vibes. Sütterol can't believe it, this team that suffers so much controversy in Italy and gets so much backlash because they're not considered to be Italian. They're considered to be so northern. They're from Bolzano, I believe, or near Bolzano. So they're basically Austrian, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that case, Como are pretty much Swiss. Like, I was in Como recently. I'm like, I am a 1 hour walk away from Switzerland. Like.
Yeah. I actually went to Bolzano as well. And when you get there in that area, the signs are in German, like.
Okay.
Yeah, it's quite well. It's crazy. And Fiorentina have a training camp there, fun fact, because I saw these purple flags everywhere, and Fiorentina were training in the mountains in the summer.
All right. That's Italian.
Yeah, pretty beautiful. I forgot to mention, bro, the most important thing of this episode, that Saponara won't be renewing.
Of course. That should have been the first thing we mentioned, and the intro should have been a Saponara goal.
And the cover had Saponara sad.
I wonder where he'll go, man.
Oh, bro, put him on Cagliari.
Ooh.
Imagine. Luvumbo, Lapadula, Saponara. That's mental. Okay. But, yeah, anyway, let's move on to the next one. The next game was actually juicier, the next quarterfinal game. It was between Cagliari and Venezia, and this was the battle of the Serie B top scorers. We have Gianluca Lapadula on Cagliari, of course, who scored 21 goals in 36 games this season. And then you have Joel Poyampalo, who you've been going on about, bro, for quite a while.
Quite some time, yes.
He is the Finnish striker for Venezia, who played 37 games and scored 19 goals.
Yeah, with a team that was significantly, both these teams were significant.
Slow starts.
Yeah, very slow starts, very negative starts. But two massive players, man.
For sure. This game, Cagliari started off so well, and they really shell-shocked Venezia, and they got 2 early goals thanks to Gianluca Lapadula.
Just 2 very well-taken goals. Just 2. It shows that he's an experienced striker, man.
Yeah, he's not big, but he'll score a header, like.
Yeah. His positional awareness is very good in that box, man.
And even the second goal was him capitalizing on a defensive error, and he was so cool. There was not a moment of panic.
To me, it's these goals that impress me more than anything, man.
For sure. The Venezia manager, Vanoli, made some good substitutions in the 52nd minute, and good meaning effective, of course, as he brought on Pierini to replace Candela, and he capitalized on Ellerson's run to head the ball into the net, giving Venezia hope, but that was not enough. They got close at the end, but Cagliari held quite firm, and they endured the 5 minutes of stoppage time. Hristov had a late header at the end, but yes, it was not enough.
Yeah, they started a bit too late, Venezia, in this game. Or rather, Genoa started very early. Cagliari started very early.
Yeah, a great strong start, and they held
firm.
That's the word. Yes, they held. You should see me shaking my fist like an old man. They held. What's the word?
So as we said, naturally awaiting them in the semi-finals, where in fact Bari and Parma, naturally. So it was Sütterol that went to play against Bari. I believe we can start with that one, bro. Sütterol against Bari.
So this was a very entertaining clash between Sütterol and Bari. Both legs were, of course, very entertaining. Those of you who listened to, I believe it was the episode before the last, we were actually watching Sütterol Bari, the first leg, which was kind of tame up until the very last minute, which tends to be the case with these playoff games, you know.
They start in the 90th minute.
Everyone's super cautious at first, they don't want to commit, and then exactly in the 91st minute, shit goes down. And it was actually in the 92nd minute when Südtirol, who were holding their own against Bari pretty well, scored a 92nd minute winner.
Yeah.
And that took them, of course, with an advantage into the second leg. But of course, in the second leg in Bari Stadium was always going to be a different story.
Stadio San Nicola, gorgeous
Stadio
stadium.
San, fuck me, dude, it's beautiful. It's got 52,000 people, of course. You look at the architecture on the stadium, it's like
Gorgeous.
each section is cut off and they're like blocks. No, it's so beautiful. This game, Südtirol did not turn up. They came to defend their advantage. They had 0 shots on target. Bari dominated. They had 67% ball possession. Ricci actually got sent off in the 47th minute, and Bari still managed to get a winner in the 70th minute. Of course, it was 1-1 on aggregate, but Bari, due to a superior league finish, went through to the final.
The other semi-final took place between Cagliari and Parma, another two teams that we've seen very recently in Serie A. The first match was a 3-2 victory for Cagliari in their stadium. However, it wasn't looking like that was going to be an outcome. If you look at the first 26 minutes of the game, or for that matter, the first half and all the way into the second as well, it was Benedicak that opened the scoring for Parma in the 10th minute. Apologies for butchering that. And then Simon Sohm in the 26th that made it 2-0 for Parma. Cagliari struggled to adapt, however a key substitution in bringing on Luvumbo really turned things around for them. He got a goal in the 68th minute, Lapadula scored a penalty in the 85th minute, and then Luvumbo got his second of the night in the 89th to get a very, very dramatic victory for Cagliari over this Parma team.
Luvumbo definitely changed the game, bro. His intensity was next level and he caused confusion in that Parma box.
It was 2 goals for Luvumbo, and he won the penalty, which Lapadula converted.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Ridiculous,
Fantastic
ridiculous stuff by him.
It was a shame to see Buffon injured and substituted in the first half, because I would have liked to see how he would have dealt with those, with the penalty especially, with those shots by Luvumbo. But yes, on to an exciting second leg where Parma just couldn't do it. Ranieri's men just shut up shop. Parma only managed 1 shot on target. Cagliari actually managed 4 shots on target, had 14 attempts in total. They gave up the majority of possession, but Cagliari held firm and they're through to the final.
Exactly. I mean, there was only one approach to take over here. I don't think they did it to a ridiculous extent of shutting up shop like the same way Südtirol did. They were playing. They were in the game. In fact, you see, they did have 14 shots. They had 4 of them on target. So it wasn't, it's not like they just went in there and shut up shop completely. It was still a competitive game. I think Cagliari overall were better than Parma in this game in particular.
Yes, I agree with you. And then we go on, bro, to the finals.
Yes, I think Cagliari-Bari was a very fair final to have, considering the quality on both teams and very unique qualities for both of these sides. It's interesting when you look at the fact that Bari, who automatically were in the semi-finals after a third place finished, played 1 lesser game than Cagliari, who had to play Venezia in the quarter-finals initially. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Would you rather play the extra game for momentum or rest your legs?
That's it. It could be. It could have given them more momentum, It could have gotten them more into the flow of things. But of course, playing football at this time of year in Italy can be very exhausting because, of course, it gets hot. No, it's easier to play when it's kind of fresh. I still think, however, resting is more important. No, like Cagliari risked injuries; they have to give everything.
Absolutely.
They're playing an extra game against a team that's fighting for their lives.
Exactly. There you go.
So that's it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So naturally, the final was over 2 legs as well, which is incredibly strange. Just incredibly strange. The first leg of the playoff final ended in a 1-1 draw. Lapadula opened the scoring for Cagliari, and Cagliari did a great job defending for the entirety of the game. They did look like they were going to get away with a victory. However, in the 95th minute, Bari won a penalty. the manager brought on Antenucci, the veteran Antenucci, just for the penalty, and he scored it with the last kick of the game and his first kick of the game. The one and only fucking kick of the game.
Of Antenucci.
Oof.
It's also worth mentioning that Khedira actually missed a penalty. Radunovic in the first half had an incredible performance. Bari won a penalty. Khedira stepped up to take it, and Radunovic actually saved it brilliantly over there. Not the best game for Khedira. Not the best playoffs for Khedira in general.
Yeah, I think he has a curse. When I watch him play, he just doesn't seem up to the task, man. But everyone raves about him. You see the amount of goals that he had the season before. Was third,
he
top
was the
scorer.
Third one, yeah.
He had it when we were watching him in the World Cup, we're like, yeah, Serie B. Definitely Serie B.
He scored 17 goals in 31 games in Serie B.
Yes, the Moroccan-Italian man who represented Morocco naturally.
Yeah. 25 years old.
Yeah,
so has room for improvement.
Exactly.
In the second leg.
Yep, the second leg, Cagliari secured promotion with a last-minute goal from Pavoletti. Bari, who were obviously favourites going into this because they finished higher than Cagliari, they drew away at Cagliari Stadium, and it's no easy task for Cagliari to visit the San Nicola Stadium. Keep in mind that a last-minute goal typically comes with a bunch of motivation, a bunch of momentum, a bunch of, you see what happens when we believe, and Bari had all of that. But Cagliari were just very professional, very focused. Bari hit the post twice, but Cagliari held their own, and it did end with last-minute drama.
Bless you, bro.
Christ.
Holy shit, the worst time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Bari did look like the better team throughout the game. They did look like they were going to get it done. However, that's not how the playoff finals works. That's not how football works. It was Pavoletti, the super sub, who came on and scored a volley towards the end of the game with one of the last kicks of the game.
After Zappa absolutely destroys his man. What a goal that was.
It was a brilliant goal. What a brilliant showing. They silenced that San Nicola Stadium. The scenes were immaculate. Ranieri bawling his eyes out. The players going absolutely nuts. What a game. What a finish. It always finishes like this.
Always. It's
you
true.
Look at last year. It was between Monza and Pisa. And that was mental.
There was Torre Grossa playing for Pisa.
Torre Grossa playing for Pisa. Who was there? Gitkier got the goals for Monza over there. That, like, last season was mad. The season before was mad.
I remember the season Hellas Verona had Pazzini as their super sub. They kept bringing him on at the end. They got them promoted.
My God, I mean, they're always so entertaining, these games.
And you see things that you would have never seen before. Like, for example, the Bari players were driven onto the pitch. The bus pulled up like by the bench, and the players just got off the bus and onto the pitch.
Immaculate scenes, man. Immaculate scenes. Honestly, it's like you're watching, okay, the quality obviously isn't like a Champions League final, but the atmosphere is definitely like a Champions League final, man.
Yes, man. These are the best games, in my opinion, to watch.
Absolutely. So now we have Frosinone, Genoa, and Cagliari all in Serie A, and we wave goodbye to Spezia, Cremonese, and Sampdoria. Another season with Genoa and Cagliari in the league, and obviously it's nice to see a club like Frosinone coming back after so long, man.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute for Frosinone, man, but they're finally back. They've got their own bomber over there, Frosinone. I always forget his name because it's kind of complicated. Mulattieri, the 22-year-old Italian, scored 12 goals in 29 games. Yes, he's not bad. Looks like Anne Frank.
I was going to say, looks a bit like Adrian Brody, who does kind of look a bit like Anne Frank, if I'm being honest.
There we go. So yes, quite a few bombers for those fantasy football players, and say, there are going to be some interesting little options over there, bro. Yeah, that was it. That was the playoffs. I hope you enjoyed this very short episode, guys. We have lots planned. Don't worry, we will be back. As you know, last weekend, for example, we released 2 episodes for you. Surprise.
Yeah.
We'll be around. Don't worry.
Exactly. I mean, now that the season comes to an end, we want to do nothing more than to talk about football and do football related stuff. So we'll try our best to keep you guys entertained whilst obviously keeping ourselves nice and entertained by speaking to you guys and sharing our findings with you. There's nothing we love more.
Yes, bros. So check us out at Serie A Spotlight on Instagram and on TikTok, guys. Give us a rating. Check out our Patreon if you would like to support what we do.
Give us a kiss.
Give us a kiss. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao, guys.
You ain't touching nothing that I do, I mean no disrespect. The bars that they was dropping over there would make them switch connects. Get anything I wanna, making sure I never miss a step. Only thing we ever focused on is secrets better kept.
Everywhere we go, I'm that nigga, me no disrespect. If it ain't no money on the line, it's a disconnect. Found a couple stacks in accounts that I didn't check.